So, B, let me start out with a big question. Why are so many men quietly losing their will to live, even when from the outside their life looks completely fine?
Ooh, let's get into the deep end, my friend.
Dive in both feet.
I take it a step further and say, why are so many men killing themselves?
Yeah.
Statistically, it's through the roof and it's disproportionately men. So it takes it up even another level. Why? Well, I guess we're going to try and sort through that over the next however long we talk. But if I boil it down to one idea, I would say I lean on my teacher and mentor, Dr. Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning, father of logotherapy. I'm a logotherapist, who said, "He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how." And the men that I know, that I love, that I guide, at least at the beginning, don't know their why. They've
Mm.
lost their why, and therefore it's hard to bear with the hows.
I am a huge Frankel fan, and some people come up with theories from sitting around pontificating in their room, and this is a man who's walked through fire at the highest level and came up with the theories after the fact. And I think that holds a lot of weight. And in your situation, you've gone through quite a walk yourself, and I'm curious with your walk, what is your current mission today?
So my why is to help other men discover and live their why. And, it's high level. We can dig into what that means. But my why comes from I had two fathers. My spiritual father, Viktor Frankl,
Mm.
who I have immersed myself in for the past 20 years. But my birth father, who I love dearly, but he made different choices. He killed himself
Mm.
about 20 years ago. And I watched a man who was the embodiment of what you just asked me, right? On the outside, everything going for him, every conceivable metric of success, but obviously didn't internalize it, feel it because he killed himself. And so my why is to help other men never choose that path.
And what do you think was really happening under the surface? Maybe not specifically just for him, but what do you think in general is really happening under the surface that these people have this external incredible image at beneath their drowning?
Such good questions. Can't necessarily put it on a bumper sticker. I'd say one of the key things is God. They don't have God. My father was a typical Jewish man, America, suburbs, 20th century. God was not a part of his life. We can talk about why that is, but you can call God source, one, ultimate purpose, because if you have that in a palpable, lived way,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't make that choice, right? You're
That's
here
right.
for a purpose. You're here by design. It's not random. It's not happenstance. And therefore, if you don't have that North Star, that orienting point, I don't care what you get in the outside world, you're ultimately going to lose your way.
Mm. And for you, when was it that you found yours?
Um, it's not when you might have thought it would be. So I was a rabbi for a long time.
Yeah.
20 years ago, became a rabbi and practiced for maybe 15 years or so. And I didn't find God in that process. I thought I did. I maybe understood God or
Mm-hmm.
I thought about God, but I never embodied. I never felt it. It wasn't until later on. That's one of the reasons why I left being a rabbi is because I felt like I was going through the motions. But I felt like a used car salesman of sorts,
Mm.
selling people on God and not necessarily believing in what I was selling. So I eventually did find my way to God through the logotherapy, meaning,
Yeah.
for Frankl, logos is meaning.
Yeah.
It's God, it's purpose. And so what Frankl's thesis was is that if we have logos, if we have meaning, if we have God, we have everything. And that heals. So therapy means healing. So it's healing through meaning or healing through God and having that ultimate purpose at the center of our lives. After I decided to walk away from being a rabbi, went through a dark, I wouldn't say night of the soul, I'd say like 5 years of the soul.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was brought to my knees. I was reduced to my essence. And that's when I discovered God, my purpose in this lifetime. Yeah.
So yeah, I like the way you worded it with it not just being a dark night of the soul. Like I think a lot of people who haven't gone through that view it like it's, a bad night in Vegas.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Like
It can
I'm
be.
like, no, it's typically things may crumble, but they don't rebuild overnight. And, maybe in YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, but in the actual process of rebuilding, it's a process, and it's and many times it can be the chrysalis in between. So for you, what brought you through that, right? Because a lot of people would think it would be, okay, well, you're the rabbi, you are the face of the congregation, you're the one going through it. And I think a lot of the religious side is, I am the closer connection to source. You come to me with your questions based on my processes and my embodiment.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like you had a moment where you shifted what your embodiment was. What was that within that dark night of the soul, that catalyst that gave you more of that why?
Yeah. So I would start with, if you meet that rabbi, that pastor, that father, that guru, walk away. The moment somebody believes that they are closer to the source than you are, they are participating in a scam and a sham, right? Human beings, we're all, I think it was Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home.
Yep.
And so, but no matter how hard I entered into it for noble purposes. I didn't enter into it to be like the guru, but no matter how hard you try, they put you up on the pedestal. They start telling you, Rabbi, you're so great and all this stuff. And you start believing your own bullshit, no matter how hard you try. I've met so many clergy who just lose themselves in this process. And I was one of them. I was getting paid a shit ton of money to put butts in the seats and give inspiring sermons and, make everybody feel good about themselves. I was like the Jewish Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Right. If you ever listen to that guy, like, there's nothing bad in the world and it's all blessings from God. And there's just no raw, real, like, this shit is hard. And so one day I found myself, not one day, over many days, I found myself after the Shabbat services going to my bathroom, the rabbi's study, and looking myself in the mirror and feeling like a fraud, which is why I named my book The Guy in the Glass. It's about a famous poem about a guy who goes to the mirror. My grandfather gave me this poem, The Guy in the Glass, and he doesn't respect the man he sees staring back. And I was becoming that man. And I said to Ariella, like, I'm going to kill myself and be generation number 3. My grandmother killed herself. If we don't get out of here, because I'm losing myself in this process. I'm starting to believe my own bullshit. And so I walked away from that profession, walked out into the dark nights of the soul. And through that process, it was ugly. It was painful. It was, dark nights of the soul, but I found me and I started to learn to like me and respect me and rebuild me. But it's been about the authentic me, not the version I wanted the world to see.
Was there a certain moment that you felt like, I'm starting to feel purpose again, or purpose in a way that feels incredibly authentic?
Yeah, it's a very simple one. So when a patient would walk into Frankel's front door or in his office for the first time, he would ask them a question that wouldn't pass muster today. And it would be, so Kyle, I don't know anything about you, but why haven't you killed yourself?
Woo!
Right? And it wasn't that he was suggesting killing yourself. He said, only thing I knew about this man is he hadn't killed himself. So why? There must be a why. And that's how you drill down into your why. And I call it your why not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the most fundamental thing. Why would I not kill myself? Right? Why would I never do that? Especially it's relevant to me. My father had, my grandmother had, supposedly my great-grandfather had. So I'm not, looking well and statistically here. And that was my why not. I was on the 13th floor of a building in Ra'anana. We were living in Israel. Mm-hmm. I went out to the veranda and I looked down and thought, you know what? I'm worth more dead than alive. It's cliche. George Bailey and the It's a Wonderful Life. Lots of guys have this. I was one of them. And I thought, you know what? Ariel and the kids would be better off with $3 million than they would with this loser. And that was my why not. And then it hit me. I will never do that to her or to my children. Because I know what it's like to be done to me. And at the very least, I will live this life and die natural causes as a gift to them so they don't have to unpack those bags. Now, that's a starting point. Thank God that's not an end point. And it's not sexy and it's not like, oh, I'm going to heal the world. But I say that because I think it's a necessary starting point for somebody who's really going through it. What's your why not? Simon Sinek book is great. Start with why. It's
Right.
inspiring, but sometimes it's just as raw and real as what is my bare minimum baseline? Why not?
I love that because so much of that brings back to self love.
Hmm.
And it's not just the lower self, it's the necessity for an awareness of what the self actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, with total self trust, the first thing I started with in that book is helping people get an understanding of what is the self.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you just think the self is the ego, it's miserable. It's ups, it's a roller coaster. It's ups and downs, and it's just about that egoic experience within one of the hardest schools you could possibly be in, called life on planet Earth.
Mm.
And so was there a moment for you where you said, okay, there is more me than just this earthbound me? And did that affect anything within that decision and your why not and your purpose? Was there, like, where did the connecting back to love happen for you?
Yeah, and I want to come back to your book, Total Self Trust, and your near death experience, right? Because
Mhm.
I had a near death experience too. I just wasn't like you in a hospital, and it was more of my own will to bring myself to that death.
Yeah.
Standing on the 13th floor, I want to hear more about your experience. I imagine they're similar in that there's a born again quality, and I know that
Yeah.
has other ramifications, but I was born again, and it was not to religion, and it was not to a system. It was, I think, what you're leading me towards. It was to me.
Right.
Like, there's a me that never was, is, or will be. I'm not expendable. I'm not replaceable. Those 4 kids and that wife don't need the $3 million. They need me.
Right.
Right. And that was like that born again moment of I'm worthy. I'm here by design. I'm not just the sperm that won the race. And so that was my sort of aha. Because, when I was a rabbi, it's like, oh, you're so charismatic. Oh, at the time, you're so good looking. You used to have hair. All these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I started playing to that stuff and I lost me. And
Right.
and my worth is tied to all those externals. And I got to this born again place of all of it can go away. All it can be stripped away. What's left?
Yeah.
Right. And what's left is the self, is the true self.
I think that's just so powerful and so beautiful and so real, right? Like, at our deepest, our self helps us keep going when we get into this awareness of non-attachment to
Mm-hmm.
stuff, which can include non-attachment to people. Because when we lose people who are important in our life, they'll flash into our mind, sometimes occasionally, sometimes every day, sometimes multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if we look back on, like, one interesting moment for me was looking back and watching my wedding video now 17 years later and saying, wow, okay, I don't ever talk to that person anymore. That person killed themselves.
Hmm.
That person died from this. That person passed away from old age. And you start looking at these things through a lens that's different than in the moment when we're having interactions with people and things, an awareness of, like, both the temporariness and the everlasting.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, is that something that has helped you with the process? Is that, okay, so if the physical self is gone, it doesn't end. Like, it keeps going.
Yeah. Your wedding example is really poignant. What's your wife's name?
Sarah.
So I'm sure Sarah looks exactly the same. I'm sure you look different. And, if I look back on mine, well, somebody once said, or maybe it was a class I took back in, the old world, they'd build boats out of wood and they'd be out at sea for so long that they'd just bring wood to fix the boats. And by the time they returned years later, there wasn't one piece of wood that was the original boat, which begs the question, what's the boat?
Right.
Right?
Wow.
Nothing is original to the thing, but the essence of the boatness is still there. And I look at that guy in the wedding video, my wedding video, and it's like, I'm totally different. Like the boat has been replaced,
Oh,
or lost or whatever. But there's still me-ness. There's still Baruch-ness.
Yeah.
And that was, is, and will always be. And that's the true self. And when I got back to him, my dark nights, I like that guy. I like that piece of B. And I want to be him. I just want to live him. I want to express him. And so I rebuilt my life based on what's true about me. Right. And sometimes I'm duping myself and I'm still playing, into my old bullshit, but I snap out of it a little quicker, or at least I get called out of it quicker. But it's like finding those core absolutes, right, that will never die. And it's hard to describe, like pornography, when you see it. It's like when you're in your value, your core value, and yours is different than mine.
Yeah.
You just, it. This is me. This is my why. This is my essence. This can't die. And when you have that, like you have everything.
To me, a lot of the ways I try to distill down is this out of your head into your heart concept, which I feel like some of these things that I try to explain or understand, if I'm trying to understand them with that left hemisphere of my brain, it's endless words. And it's a maneuvering and it's a justifying and an explaining. But when you're in that state that you're talking about, it's a very like heart-centered state. Like, do you feel in this version of yourself more grounded and more connected and more like, this is me? And then kind of the second part of that is, do you catch yourself whenever you start to slip out or something's pulling you out to get back on, and how and what kind of stuff do you do to pull yourself back in?
Yeah, those are some good questions. Yeah, it's a life force, right? In Kabbalah, it's called nefesh. It's just this pulsating life force that you just know when you're in it, and you just feel alive and like you're living on purpose. And by the way, when I'm working with people or, whatever in my own life, when you're doing that thing and it brings you that, do that. Whatever that is, like just keep doing that. And so, when I'm in that space and I'm doing that, I feel really good. Now I start to get into fear. So as an example, I love to write. Okay. I've been a writer for 20 years. I hate publishing books. I've published 2, most of which are all in my mom's garage. I published a 3rd, just came out, and I'm looking at this going, ugh, because my life force was the writing of it. And then I start to feel like I got to sell it. I got to market it. I got to do all this shit, right? Whatever. I can feel the fear creeping in and I'm losing the life force.
Yeah.
And so kind of coming back to this as an example, and what you're asking is, I got to find ways back to that nefesh, to that soul, to that life force. And so I've really worked very hard since my dark nights of the soul about 10 years ago to put in check, to put in place things that keep me in check.
Yeah.
So for instance, I have a morning practice. Sometimes it's like meeting the divine, and sometimes it's just fucking painful to sit there.
Yes.
And I make myself go down there because I know that this will help get back to that nefesh, that soul, that purpose. It's no different than nutrition or exercise or date night with my wife. Put those things into place, guardrails, structure, because the highs won't always be high, right?
I started calling it my appointment with spirit, because I started looking at part of that, call it divine masculine energy, has been the schedule and the systems, especially for an ADHD brain that always wants to just jump into the creative and move on to following my enthusiasm at all times and giving myself some of those guardrails. But I was like, you know what, if I make an appointment with spirit throughout the day, every day, that it's a touch point that it doesn't, and you really hit it on the head. Like, it's not always I sit there and I meditate and it's easy and it's perfect, because guys like you and me didn't choose to just sit and meditate in a cave. We've chose a path that involves partner and children, like the real bringing of heaven to earth, if you will. I wanted to dive into something that you were speaking about that I think is really interesting, coming from somebody who was a rabbi, which is Kabbalah. Why do you think that side is not integrated in within Judaism as a norm? Like for me, I remember we had a couple Kabbalistic books that were in our synagogue that were over on a shelf somewhere that I happened to come across when I was like 11.
Mhm.
And I was drawn to them. And I looked at them, but I was also like, I need to be over here paying attention doing this. So I couldn't. It was like, maybe they just weren't ready for me yet. And then when I started to open up to it, I was like, my God, this is so in alignment with so much of the spiritual practices I've been studying through so many different routes. They just didn't have Hebrew words and names attached to it. So why do you think that is?
Well, first, let me tell a quick joke. So a guy's been praying at the Kotel, the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, a very holy place for, like, he's like turning 100. So they send out a reporter to say, interview him. And they say, sir, what is it like coming here? He comes every day. He talks to this. He's like, it's like talking to a fucking wall. And I feel like that's one side of the equation of any religion, but especially Judaism, why are you doing it? Because that's what we do.
Right.
I went to Hebrew school and didn't like it. You're going to go to Hebrew school and not like it.
That's
and
right.
Your son will go to Hebrew school and not like it. And there's this sort of, that's the definition of like bureaucracy. It exists to exist. When I was growing up, I was dating only non-Jewish girls. And my mom or dad said to me, we want you to marry a Jewish girl. I'm like, it would have been nice if you told me, like, before all this practice, for past 10 years.
Yeah.
I said, why? They said continuity. I'm like, let me get this straight. I'm supposed to perpetuate this thing just to perpetuate it. You got to give me a more compelling reason than that. And they couldn't. And back to my dad, everything was Jewish. The country club's Jewish and the friends are Jewish, but it's not Jewish. That's just the surface.
It's the ish.
It's the ish. Jewish is that there's one source and that we must devote our lives to channeling and expressing that source. That's what it is. Shema Yisrael, right? The central tenet of Judaism is God is one, right? So, but that wasn't a lived experience for any of us, most of us growing up. It was all the ish stuff, the surfacey stuff. And I do believe that Kotel, that wall, is a wall, but I also believe what it represents is a center of source energy. So let's get back to what's behind the wall. It's not the wall, it was behind the wall. What was behind the wall was this beautiful, rich tradition of bringing down source energy into this world. It's called light, and we're a light unto nations. Let's share the light. To me, that's Judaism.
Yeah.
Why we lost that, there's 1,000 reasons. I could spend an hour on it, but I'd say the bottom line is we did lose it, and the proof is in the pudding. Go to any synagogue or church, but any synagogue, I can only pick on our people, on a Saturday, and look who's attending. It ain't you and me.
No.
It's people who are guests of the bar mitzvah. It's people who are prepping to die and hedging their bets. It's the rabbi who gets paid. Now, in the Orthodox world, it's a different issue, and I'll leave that alone. But the non-Orthodox, which is the majority of American Judaism, it's just a wall. Right?
So I think one thing that has shifted within that is that as we've gone through this phase of the heyday of like, hey, everybody love each other, everyone's accepted, regardless of your background, into repeating the cycle of scapegoatism, is that has brought people to who are a Jew, which is a microcosm of the world, right? 15, 16 million people, into this identity of a remembering who they are in some capacity and an interconnectedness regardless of religious beliefs, where I'm watching atheist Jews start feeling a connection to themselves, to Israel, to different things. And there's an underlining why and purpose, and also not why not take my own life, but why not let somebody exterminate me? What have you seen with that, and how do you think that kind of plays into the history of the people and also the spiritual side of it all?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we are here to be a light unto nations. It doesn't mean we're the only light. There's all kinds of light, but we are a source of light. How do I know that? Because we're here thousands of years later and still contributing disproportionately to light to a darkened world. And we can talk about 1,000 reasons. Doesn't mean we don't have darkness. We do, but we have a heck of a lot of light proportional to the numbers and what we should be producing. And also, what I'm fascinated by from a spiritual perspective is Look at we're here in Boulder, Colorado, and if you go over to Naropa, which is sort of a spiritual hotbed of Buddhism, it was founded by Jews.
Right.
Like no Jews, no Naropa. If you look at Buddhist teachers today, there are more teachers, this is a fact, born Jewish than born Buddhist that are teaching Buddhism,
Right.
leading lights in Buddhism. Plant medicine, right, was pioneered by Jews. You look at Ram Dass, there's a whole host of them. You look at all of these isms, isms happening out there. Jews are driving it. They're spiritually hungry. And so I think that impetus is so good. It's life force, it's energizing. And so I do believe that Jews are here. They're hungry. They're spiritual. They're not finding it in their home, so they're going elsewhere. And I think that energy is so needed and good for the world. I forgot your second part of your question.
Well, I'll bypass the second part of the question because it's not as important as what you just brought up, which is, to me, at its core essence, is we are also allowed to act out of curiosity and open-mindedness versus out of closed-mindedness
Yes.
and fear.
Yes.
That's why we are pioneering these things. And I think it's a great, it's one of the things that has still kept me connected, even though I grew up in a place where I was the only one. Me, my brother, and my brother's best friends were the only one in the whole high school. And it's okay for you to explore energy, and you don't need to be closed. You can be open to the expansion of consciousness, which is, I think, why that has happened. And
Yeah.
for me, what I'm curious about is, it seems like Kabbalah has become a really foundationally important part of your journey, your wife's journey. Where'd you find it?
Yeah, that's a good pathway back for us because I do believe that we have many contributions. Just by the way, like I practice Buddhist mindfulness meditation, so thank you, Buddhists, for the light
Yep.
of mindfulness, and I practice kirtan. Thank you, Hindus, for the practice of kirtan, etc. Like this isn't an exclusive, this is share the love. But Jews have been called to bring a certain type of light to this world, and Kabbalah is one of them.
Mm.
One of the reasons why I love Kabbalah is because it is a thinking person's spirituality, right? And
Expand on that. I would love to hear.
Buddhism is a non-attachment. I want to say detach, non-attach myself to ideas, to thought. I want to be in the experience of it. So I practice Buddhist mindfulness meditation practice to stop thinking and to just be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I practice yoga as movement to embody. Judaism doesn't have a movement practice, and they're not really good at being quiet. Right?
Right.
Lots of stereotypes here, but they're true.
Oh, we have a word kvetch, right? To bitch and complain.
Yes,
That
exactly.
is one of our words for a reason. So
and Jewish yoga is please rise, please sit.
That's right.
Please turn to page 145. But what we have in the spiritual realm to contribute is a roadmap of God. Right? It's called the Blueprints of God. It is so sophisticated, the way Kabbalah describes cosmology, the nature of reality. Here's one example. Our binary thinking around body, soul isn't Jewish, it comes from other traditions. Judaism doesn't believe in a soul, right? Kyle doesn't have a soul. You have souls. You have nefesh, which is kind of the earthy stuff. You have ruach, which is emotional kind of stuff and thinking. And then you have neshama, which is mind. And then you have beyond that and so forth. These are layers of soul. And when I think of layers of soul, I don't know if I believe in a soul, but I believe in layers of soul. So as an example, one of the things some Jews do is keep kosher. It's the dietary laws. I don't believe in keeping kosher because check the boxes, but I believe in aspects of kashrut because nefesh, bodily soul, is also the same word for blood. And when you ingest blood, you're ingesting a part of an animal. And so my point isn't to keep kosher. My point is when you're ingesting another life form, become mindful that that's part of the spiritual blueprints here. Right? And Kabbalah really dissects the world in a way that spiritually makes sense and I can get behind, and I can now create sort of architecture of my life around God in a way that isn't just, I pray.
I love that. And it sounds like it satisfies both the spiritual seeking part and also the scientist within us, which it's rare to find something that can satisfy both. So a lot of people are like, I'm shutting off everything, right? If I can't see it in this material in front of me and I can't see it published in PubMed, that's it. And then the other side is, if I can't pull up to it in a book like its Dewey Decimal System that tells me how to think, what to do, and how to act in every situation, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I grew up in Nebraska. Most of my friends were evangelical Christian, still are. But it was 7 days of creation. It's like, really, guys? Fucking 7 days? Like, do the math here. Look at but Judaism doesn't ask me to believe in 7 days. 7 is the number of creation, right? And so it's a creative force process. You can look at that. Time was different. You start breaking it down, 7 units of time over a period of time. But I can hold the tension as a Jew. Right, a teacher of mine, Dennis Prager, says Judaism doesn't do well on a bumper sticker. Is Judaism pro-choice? No. Is it pro-life? No. It's fucking complicated. Capital punishment? No. Anti? No. It's complicated.
Right.
Life is complicated. God is complicated. It's embrace the suck. Embrace the mess.
And nuance and discernment, which to me, I just wrote a thing that I had to really sit with if I was even going to put it out today, just through LinkedIn, social media, on the idea of how nuance and discernment has been lost, that loss of that inner authority. And I'm curious, in your experience, is that something that, it sounds like it's something that you had to wrestle with, which is that internal discernment around the identity that then made you say, hey, I'm going to step into a new identity. So when you made that decision, which I think a lot of people listening right now is, labels are important to them in some capacity, whether they're aware of it or not, which is like, I am a high achiever. I'm conscious. I'm spiritual. I'm an entrepreneur. Like, you had to take this identity of I am a rabbi and then, not burn the bridge, nuke the bridge. And I can relate. And as you've gone through that, you've moved on to this stage of the 13-minute mission to confront male suicide. Tell us a little bit about, this piece and its relation to your new identity.
Not to shamelessly plug my book, but it's based on a guy walking into a bar and he gets asked 6 questions. That's why it's called 6 questions. And these are old questions that are so obvious. What's your name? What do you do? Are you single? Come here. Like pickup lines. But these are not simple questions. These are Kabbalistic questions. What's your name? Well, real quickly, what's your name?
Kyle Emanuel Brown, and then my Hebrew name is Gedalia Yaakov Ben Aryeh.
And what do your kids call you? They call you all that?
My kids call me bro. If it's my daughter right now, they call me dad, and they call me hey you.
And your parents call you this, and your wife calls you
That's
that,
right.
And you have titles. You have your coach, your author. These are all names. We're not a thing.
That's right.
Right? We're all of these things. And by the way, Moses says to God in Exodus, what's your name? Like, what the fuck is God supposed to say? Hey, it's G-O-D. No.
Right.
What does God say? I am that I am. I will be that I will be. Right? God's a verb. It's becoming.
Right.
It's process. You want to talk, what is idolatry? It is not bowing down to stupid idols.
Right.
Right. If somebody comes over to my house and says, you have a Buddha in your house, that's idolatrous. I'm like, you fucking think God cares if I have a statue in my house?
Yes.
Idolatry is making the infinite finite. It's making the ineffable static. So making me be into this is who I am, a rabbi. That is idolatry. I am a businessman. I am a fill in the blank. And I got to this point where I'm an idolater. I am a rabbi. My wife, thank God, never lost sight of it. And she would say, bullshit. You're not a rabbi. It's what you do. It's not who you are. But that's idolatry. That's losing yourself. And I got to this point where it's like, I am so much more. And that's been my process over the past 10, 15 years of becoming a verb, becoming all these different things. So now people say, like spiritually, they want a label. Fine. You want a label? I'm a spiritual mutt. That's it. I like good shit from wherever it comes from. Does it make me live a better, more meaningful, connected life? Let's do that.
I love that. I have this psychedelic Buddha at home that one of our members of Rooted created, and had a few comments come in about, oh my God, how could you deface the Buddha? And I was like, you've probably never done psychedelics before, because I'm sure that's probably what the Buddha actually likes when you get rid of that little micro amount of light spectrum color that the human eye can see. And
Plus, you think the Buddha was a fat little cherub looking guy? I mean, this is ridiculous, right?
no, he was as much of the fat little cherub as Nordic Jesus, who was from the Middle East. So the one guy born Nordic looking, it probably didn't happen. So I look at this and I bring a lot of these things back. You've processed heavy stuff in life. And I think that people like us who've had to process really heavy stuff, it opens up our capacity to handle other people's heaviness and to help them with transmutation. And part of that is around the cosmic joke of it all. So was there a time where you tapped in and really found the cosmic joke and the awareness of like, this is but a dream, a school, an experience? And then like, as you went through that, then how did you really bring that back to your family and your leadership and everything else?
It's funny you say that. This stuff going through it, I would say it not only makes it possible for me to hold space for other people going through it, it makes it hard to hold space for the bullshit.
Yes.
Right?
Well said.
Like I can't do cocktail parties anymore. I'm like, all right, why haven't you killed yourself? Like, who invited the fucking existentialist dark former rabbi? So I think that it has stripped me of everything that isn't me, coming full circle. And that when you get to that point, you just kind of sit naked going like, I used to be a rich man. I used to have golden handcuffs. Rabbis make a shit ton of money and lifetime contract. And, oh, rabbi, you have a parking ticket. That's the cops saying, just keep going. Don't worry about it. Everybody's providing, whatever. I used to have all this stuff. Now I got to scrap and grind. I got kids in college, whatever. And you just have it all taken away from you, or you give it all away and you just start laughing. It's like, and not to compare, this is totally different, but Viktor Frankl's wife was murdered. His kid was murdered. His parents, his family, his friends, stripped of his profession, his possessions, reduced to this number, 119104. And he said, but you can't take my defiant spirit, right? Fuck you.
Beautiful.
Like, that's it. Like, that's the joke. You can take all this stuff, and it pains me to have it taken. It's not stuff, it's people. But you don't get to take this, right? This essence.
I want to double down on this and get your take on this, which is, a lot of people think, my business is called Rapid Harmony. This podcast is called Rapid Harmony Podcast. A lot of people think that harmony is just everything is love and light. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's a do no harm, take no shit combo in both of these. And I'm curious, man, like, a lot of things that you say, people can go, I can't believe a rabbi would say this. And you're like, ex-rabbi. And then also they would say, I can't believe Frankel would have defiance energy and not just, bliss at all times. Where does that fit into logotherapy? Where does it fit into your experience and that harmony of being more of like a do no harm, take no shit energy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, at the center of logotherapy, so logos means meaning, is choice, right? That's all we have is our choice, our ability to choose. And Viktor Frankl would say, his famous quote is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Most of us give away our ability to choose our response. We react. Car cuts us off, I'm pissed. Person comes in my life I feel good about, I feel happy. Right? And we're just reactive. We're ping pong balls. And what he said was he will not give away his power to choose his response. And his response was to the Nazis, without him saying this, he was far more elegant and sophisticated. Fuck you.
Right.
Right? You don't get to decide how I respond. And so I think that's the ultimate, that's all we have. right? And I just want to live that all day, every day is my ability to choose my response. Therefore, I think to me, harmony is the ability to come back to response no matter what I'm facing. It means there's a lot of shitstorms. It
Right.
means there's a lot of bad things happening. And it's not that I'm Pollyanna,
Right.
but my circumstances on a good day don't determine how I respond.
Right. I think if you look at nature, right? If you ever see two ducks nice and gently move up to each other, or my two cats is another example, is I'll see my two cats walk up to each other and they'll just spat really fast and boom, then they're fine. They can be licking each other's fur. They're just chill. They don't suppress the emotion. They don't repress the emotion. They feel it and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And, from a Buddhist standpoint, there's anger is drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. And, the holding on and repressing or suppressing your emotions, to me, that's just like, I could sit here nice, but I could be internally pissed off and angry with you over some nonsense that's only going on in my head. And I'm not expressing that emotion in any capacity. Like that to me is incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah, and we call those the nice guys, and they're rewarded. And I think there's nothing worse in this world than being a nice guy. Absolutely nothing, because it's not good. It's nice. If I have spinach in my teeth, I want Kyle to tell me you got spinach in your teeth, not to go home and look and he was such a nice guy. I didn't want to say anything, but now I had spinach in my teeth. Now,
Right.
that's a stupid example, but there are serious examples. I'm an angry dude. I'm an Enneagram 8 I teach the Enneagram. Are you familiar with the Enneagram? What's your number?
7, I think.
So, you're a much lighter dude than I am, if that's true. And eights are angry. I've had to learn how to harness it. And people say anger's bad. It's not bad. Martin Luther King was an 8. He was pissed off, and I'm glad he was. Gandhi, right? Nelson Mandela. These were angry men who learned how to harness it to do good in the world. This is warrior energy. It doesn't mean you go to battle. It doesn't mean you live with anger. It means you know how to harness it to deal with life's darkness and struggles and
Mm-hmm.
suffering. And that's mastery, right? And that's why I think we're here, is to have mastery over these things.
Yeah, it's energy transmutation.
Mm-hmm.
And with your path, how do you feel like you're able to show people who are in that sense? I know a lot of what you're really dealing with and focused in on is helping men with that process. How do you help men learn how to take that emotion and transmute it and eventually get to love?
Number one is just make friends with it, right? Nothing is good or bad with inside of us. It just is. Your feelings are your feelings. And can you learn? I mean, we live in this world, toxic positivity. Like, there's good feelings and there's bad feelings. No, they're not. They're your feelings. So feel them, harness them. It's energy. Another one, anxiety. Anxiety is not bad. I want my kids to be anxious about touching a hot stove.
Right.
I don't want them to be controlled, dominated by it, right? Depression. I want you to be depressed after your loved one dies. You know how many times people were trying to make, there was this one funeral home that said, we put the fun in funeral, right? That was a marketing thing they did. I'm like, that's a fucking ridiculous message. I want people to be sad.
Right.
I want people to cry. Depression has its place, right? Situationally, go into it, feel what you're feeling down there, as opposed to, I shouldn't be here.
Right.
No, you should be here. How do I know that? Because you're here. Let's deal with it and move forward. And to me, that's a starting point for men, especially, is feel your feelings.
I love that. Ram Dass had a really good talk on this understanding of being both simultaneously, both the awareness that you are oneness and the heaviness that comes with, you are all of the things and people who've done all of the good, and you're also all the things and the people who've done some of the darkest things in the world, but then also the being here now and present in the experience of, not only am I living awareness, but I am also this guy with this background living this life right now. And that part of living this life is that experience. And I think a lot of people forget that, and they think that they need to be this image and this illusion, and forget that you're going to achieve ascension and oneness once you're done, as a kind of guarantee. So,
and it's back to your point, though, of, we live in this sort of binary either or. People are messy.
Yeah.
We have to be able to hold the tension. This is why I hate cancel culture.
Hmm.
You're taking somebody and reducing them to their worst moment,
Right.
right? People aren't a la carte. You got to take the whole thing and embrace it. It doesn't excuse it, bad behavior, whatever, but to cancel, particularly men, for one particular moment or one action, or my father, I canceled him.
Yeah.
After he killed himself, I was so fucking angry and I canceled him. And then years later, I stopped canceling him and I remembered the totality of my father and that he should be canceled because of his last few moments.
I love that. I've always rebelled against the saying of once a fill in the blank, always a fill in the blank. And I I've been 900 different people in my lifetime. So like, once a fitness, obsessed guy who was cared only about, his worth around his body fat percentage, like that's not me at all. So I'm not a once a this, and that goes on all capacities. I love the Alan Watts quote of you have no responsibility to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
Love that.
And we don't. And I think a lot of it then comes back into that trust. And I want to hit you with a couple of rapid fire rounds and just let
I
what
feel
pulls
bad
out of
for
the
you
gut.
because as you've learned, I still have the rabbi hangover. I don't do rapid, but I'll try.
I
I put people to sleep with long sermons. So sorry.
I would say your sermons are authentic and eloquent when it's just flowing out. So
I'll try rapid though.
so we're gonna test you. We're expanding the
All right,
potential
I'm
here.
gonna redefine myself 5 minutes later.
That's right.
Like
See,
Alan Watts.
the old you of 5 minutes ago didn't do rapid. This new you nails
Let's
rapid.
go, baby. Let's go.
All right, here we go, B. A belief about masculinity that needs to die.
That real men don't need help.
I love that. A belief about masculinity that needs to return.
A belief that warriors are also artists.
I love that. A daily habit that keeps you grounded.
Talking to God.
I love it. One book that every man should read.
Total self-trust.
Let's get two more books in there that men should read.
I'm just going to put one more in there. Man's Search for Meaning, named by the Library of Congress as top 10 most important books of the 20th century for your reason that it's a lived experience of these ideas, not just theory.
That's Frankel's most famous book, and I will say here on that. And then the third one, what's the name of your new book coming out?
Not to even be in the camp of those other two.
Put it in there.
The Guy in the Glass, 6 Questions to See the Man You Were Meant to Be.
Love it. I love it. And then one last one on the rapid is one question every man should ask himself.
Do I respect the guy staring back from the glass?
Oof. If you're sitting here listening to this right now, feel into that question and ask yourself that question, unless you're driving a car right now, because I don't want you to make some crazy decision or start crying if you don't respect that man and get in an accident, a fender bender. But at least when you're home and in a safe space, go look in the mirror and ask yourself that question. Excellent. So I like to end it this way, which is, what is one question you want to ask me?
Well, I get to interview you in another podcast, so
I love that.
Go deeper into it. But what is the single most important insight on the other side of death?
I think that consciousness doesn't go away. The you that is you never leaves. And you may get rid of this physical experience. You may get rid of the labels. Like I may get rid of the label of Kyle Emanuel Brown and dad and husband, but you get to keep playing. And that's beautiful. No matter how this one goes down, you get to keep playing.
I love it.
I think that's important. And I want to hit you with this one here.
Sure.
So imagine a man is listening to this right now late at night, maybe alone, maybe feeling like his life has no direction. What would you say directly to that man?
There never has been, is, or will be another you. There's purpose waiting to be discovered that only you and you alone can discover. Go out there and find it, or call me or Kyle, and we'll help you find it.
I just got beautiful chills of confirmation on that one. That's full body chills, and the power behind that, and I think we all need to hear it at all times, no matter what seat we're sitting in, no matter how confident we are in the moment, behind a microphone, not behind a microphone, talking to our family and friends.
And I would just add to that, if it's, to the point where he's suicidal, 13 minutes, every 13 minutes, a man kills himself. So somebody out there's coming up on that time. Don't start with why. Simon Sinek was wrong. I loved his book. Great idea. It's too big, it's too hard, it's too bold. Start with why not. Find one thing. Hold on to it with every ounce of your being. And I promise you that will take you to the break of dawn.
Aho.
Aho.
And where can people learn more about you and your work?
BHaLevi.com. The letter B, HALEVI.com.
And the 13-minute mission.
Find it on there, find much more. And then one of my biggest things is I want to build a community here in Boulder, Denver, anybody listening in the area, with my good friend Kyle and the Rooted community. And I just feel like this is one more confirmation that we are kindred spirits, building a kindred community.
100%. I'm all in, man, and grateful for this opportunity. And if you're listening at home and this resonated with you, share this with a man in your life who might need it. Sometimes a single conversation can change absolutely everything.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, brother. This was beautiful.